It's easy to see why Gradius was such a tremendous success in 1985. Managing to merge adrenaline-fueled shooting and real-time strategy with finesse nobody else was able to achieve before Konami stepped up to the plate. So what do you do when you've made the prima donna of your time and you got a game joining the Hall of Legends like Asteroids and Space Invaders? Make another one as soon as possible. Konami doubled down on their gold mine and immediately began production on the sequel, which would eventually be known as Salamander. Salamander struck right while the iron was hot, when Gradius was at the height of its national popularity and enthusiastic players thought it wasn't going to get much better than that. But it did. Released in 1986, barely 1 year after the original Gradius, Salamander sees everyone's favorite cardboard spaceship, the Vic Viper, returning to duty to deal with the Bacterions yet again. The bad boys of the universe have occupied the peaceful planet of Lattice this time around, turning it into a militaristic fortress to expand their empire. The natives weren't going to take it lying down though. Their best starfighter, piloting the Lord British, traveled to planet Gradius to send out a signal of distress. Oh yes, making it perfectly clear you don't have to bear the burden of the battle alone this time around. If you brought a buddy with you, then he or she can join the fray rather than sitting back idly, waiting for their turn in a two-player game. Two-player simultaneous play was prominently advertised in the demonstration to inform players about the revelation without even needing to say a word. But it can't resist the urge to talk. You'll hear the game speak with decent-sounding digitized voices during the demo too, calling out the names of the power-ups as they're picked up. That holds true when the game begins as well, as your ship's computer gives you tips and motivational speeches along the way, making the Gradius universe closer to the sci-fi movies that inspired it in the first place. These advertised elements give the game a very strong first impression to an onlooker, let alone somebody that survived the first Bacterion battle. So, is it worth crediting up and hitting the go button? Yes it is, and you find out why the moment you start playing it.
Its crystal chamber is empty. Pick it up multiple. Pick it up multiple. Crystal, pick it up for a force field.
Anyone returning from Gradius 1 will be greeted with a sense of deja vu as they blast their way through wave after wave of mindless drones, since Salamander follows in its predecessor's footsteps very closely. You dart and dodge your way around 6 destructive stages on your way to liberate planet Lattice with your delicate glass spaceship, passing through many memorizable patterns of bullets using your skill and experience to triumph over the uneven odds. The same satisfying formula used to make every Gradius great, but you'll notice something different almost immediately. You're no longer choosing your power-ups manually. They're all transmitted directly to you when you pick up the appropriate icons scattered throughout the game. The signature feature setting the entire Gradius franchise apart from its competitors was streamlined in favor of experimentation, boasting new features and more emphasis on bedazzling set pieces rather than strategic decision-making. Without the power-up bar, the quality of a game like this lives or dies by its stage design, and Salamander survived the test of 1,000 players, including myself. The Lattice star system is more diverse than the route you had to follow in Gradius 1, so there's no shortage of perplexing alien planets to visit along the way. Most games, including the first Gradius, would ease you into the trip with a fairly standard grassy or mountainous region, but this throws you right into the exotic stuff, which was a welcome change of pace from the usual introductions. From there, you'll be sandwiched between 2 burning infernos in a fiery planet, narrowly avoiding sporadic eruptions. Destroying a barricade blocking your path in a cavernous Bacterion hideout, get blindsided by an asteroid belt once you approach your destination, and finally reach the remains of planet Lattice to finish the job once and for all, overseeing whatever's left of the once beautiful city being turned into plasma rifle hell. The game also transitions from a horizontally scrolling affair to a vertically scrolling one every other stage, which not only adds to the greater variety, but also helps separate sequel from prequel to make this game distinct. That being said and done, that's pretty much all there is to cover. It's more the same easy-to-play, hard-to-master shenanigans people were expecting from the follow-up to one of the most legendary games of all time. It worked really well a year ago. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? dodge everything that isn't a power-up, shoot everything in sight to rack up those points, fight the toughest foes in the galaxy, and most importantly, don't die. If you do die... Oh my gosh! You keep some of your power-ups! Sweet, merciful forgiveness! Thank you! You're actually given a sliver of mercy, and you're allowed to keep whatever options you're able to recover after your explosion. This is shockingly merciful for a 1986 arcade game, and it would eventually end up being the standard for arcade games going forward in a few more years from now. It's the entire reason why Lifeforce ended up becoming more well-known than Gradius among retro collectors in the West. It was designed to complement the cooperative nature of this game, but for the average gamer, it feels significantly less frustrating than restarting with nothing. I defended the checkpoints in the original Gradius because of how early the game was released, but the team deserves kudos for raising the bar so quickly after that. I think that's reflected in how well the game performed as well, because if you feel like you've always got a fighting chance, that makes the player want to come back to the game more frequently. The game didn't get any easier, but now it's not kicking you while you're down. While the original Gradius is technically a better game because of its intuitive power-up bar making action games less mindless, this is the game that people are far more likely to enjoy in the long run. Because newcomers getting their feet wet for the first time aren't being driven away by intimidating checkpoint recoveries. Salamander went on to become majorly successful for Konami all around the world, receiving ports on PC Engine, NES, PlayStation, and Commodore 64s. Konami made more than enough money to start a timeless franchise and make it their cash cow, and everybody lived happily ever after. Case closed, GG, pack your bags, it's done. Normally that would be the end of the story and the retrospective, but Konami wasn't exactly done with Salamander yet. When they decided to market this game in North America, they figured the contemporary space battles were tiresome to us Westerners. The organic pulsating alien planet was already the most memorable stage in Salamander. So our version of the game was renamed Lifeforce, and it was given a partial graphical overhaul to place the entire game within a living being's body. This is the version most of you in the US are probably familiar with, as this was all over arcades around here. But wait! That's still not the end! Gradius 2's development was taking longer than expected since its developers were eager to up the ante with more powerful hardware. Since the source code for Salamander was still available, a skeleton crew was assembled to release a final revision of Lifeforce, which would be Japan exclusive up until now, years before Capcom popularized iterative sequels with Street Fighter II. The Japanese version of Lifeforce was released in 1987, completing the graphical overhaul started in the American version and improving the game in numerous ways by adding innovative new features and squashing many glaring bugs players discovered on release. The most notable addition being the return of the Gradius power-up bar, allowing you to pursue your favorite weapons in whichever order you please. But the less obvious addition is the exceptional one. If you look really closely, you'll see that the Big Viper and Lord British's power-up arrangements are completely different, meaning that this is one of the earliest shoot-em-ups to actually have distinct, selectable characters. The bright blue Big Viper focuses on speed and mobility, while the fiery red Lord British prides itself on power, getting all of the shot upgrades sooner. One isn't any better than the other either. Both of these sweet rides can get the job done efficiently. Your favorite all boils down to personal preferences. All these perks add up to make Japanese Lifeforce the ultimate version of Salamander. Its reworked visuals and setting distinguish it from not only every other space shooter at the time, but also other games in the Gradius series that don't take place within a giant monster's guts. And all the gameplay changes and improvements polish what is already a great game to begin with. Get this game if you have a Switch or PS4. If you could only choose one Gradius game to buy on a modern console right now, this would be it. A game as timeless as this is worthy of its $8 price tag in the Arcade Classics Archive lineup. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked the video, then by all means, feel free to subscribe, and I'll try to get these documentaries out once a month. Stay safe out there!